on unemployment put out by the CMIE, that's the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, has shown that unemployment in August at 8.3% is the highest level in the last 12 months. Why have we seen a spike once again in unemployment, and what is the indications for the economy? There's also interesting data on which states are seeing more unemployment. To speak more on this, I'm joined now by Mahesh Vyas. He's the CEO and MD of CMIE, the institution that puts out this data regularly. It's considered, the gold standard really in the private space for employment data. Mahesh, great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for speaking with me. Take us through the August numbers and why they have peaked, because we saw quite a bit of improvement in July, didn't we?
Yes, there was an improvement in July, and we have seen the unemployment rate rise in the month of August. Mind you, this number seems to be oscillating between around 7% and 8%. So it was 6.8% in July, it's gone up to 8.3% in August. So this is the range, around 7 to 8%. It can go a little below 7, go a little above 8. It doesn't go much higher than that and doesn't quite fall below that. So India's unemployment rate seems to be running in the range of 7 to 8% around now. The reason why the number increased in August is that very elementary. A larger number of people came into the labor market looking for jobs, but the economy could not provide them jobs. In fact, the labor market shed 2 million jobs when 4 million people came to look for jobs. So unemployment went up by 6 million, and therefore the unemployment rate went up from 6.8 to 8.3%.
So we are seeing this coinciding with certain factors, Mahesh, and this is where we need clarity, because the government is now citing EPFO data and new enrollment data to say that unemployment is actually reducing. More and more formal jobs are being created. So how do you look at this variance?
So the EPFO data looks at registrations under the EPFO system. So a person, when he gets employed in a particular kind of job, then she gets registered in the EPFO system. Now, since this is related to getting a job of a certain kind, you say that jobs have been created. And one cannot argue with that data that there is an increase in the EPFO registrations, no doubt about that. But mind you, EPFO is very likely looking at only salaried kind of jobs. And salaried jobs are only about 20% of all jobs in India. And a farmer doesn't have an EPFO account. Your food vendor does not have an EPFO account, and so on and so forth. So a fairly large chunk of Indians are in the informal sector and the unorganized sectors. They don't count in the EPFO system. So it is good to know that the organized EPFO system is rising, but the rest is not.
In your data for the month of August, if I break it down, urban unemployment has also risen significantly, above 9.5%. Doesn't that also mean that salary jobs have actually been lost and not gained? Would that be the right way to look at it?
Right. And we actually have the numbers for salary jobs. In fact, salary jobs did fall in the month of August. So that was a bit disappointing. We did see a fall in agricultural jobs. So people who are employed in the agricultural sector, whether they are farmers or farm laborers, but they got absorbed in the services sector and non-professional personal services segment. But salary jobs did shrink. And so that does show a little stress over there. But, we saw the data, and I did write about this as well, that there is a certain seasonality or a certain movement in this data that suggests that the fall in August was kind of expected. In August, one does see a fall in this, and there is a rise in September. So I'm hopeful that in September, salary jobs will come back.
Let me just break it down state-wise. You have some states, and you're seeing this 8.3% figure all India. but there are some states which have unemployment as high as 30%. Now, economically and in terms of an impact on society, what does that mean when 30% at least of the population is unemployed, Mahesh?
No, let me correct you on that. It's not that 30% of the population is unemployed. 30% of those people who are actively looking for jobs are unemployed. If 50% of the people are not actually actively looking for jobs, there could be a family where one person is working and there could be three others who are not working and they choose not to work. One could be educated, one could be a student, and the other could be a homemaker. And you don't have to have all of them working. What's important is that in some states, take for example Haryana, which has been quoted very often,
Yeah.
that a large number of people over there are looking for jobs. And that's what's called the labor force participation rate. Haryana's labor force participation rate is higher and significantly higher than the India average. And because the labor force participation rate over there is higher, the challenge for that state to provide jobs is higher. Now, why is this the case? Because Haryana is an industrialized state where there is industry, there is services, and there are people who migrate into the state looking for jobs. So the number of people looking for jobs is high, and the opportunities are not growing fast enough over there. But that's a better place to be in than a state which has got very low unemployment rate, but has also got very low labor participation rate.
Okay, because that means that people have just given up and don't even think that they can get jobs. Simply put, I want to come to the big picture in terms of, does India have an unemployment issue, Mahesh? Because this tends to become a polarizing statement. It's not looked at as pure data. It tends to become very political and seen as a failure to provide jobs. Put this into context for us. Right now, with a young demography and these kind of unemployment rates, does India have a problem?
Well, CMI just puts out the data. We don't see any politics in this.
Yeah.
Particularly, let me give you an example, and this is good to quote because you brought this question to the fore, polarizing politics, etc. So you look at unemployment in Haryana; it is very high. It is a BJP-ruled state. You look at unemployment in Uttar Pradesh, neighboring state; it's a BJP-ruled state, and unemployment is very low. You look at Rajasthan, a neighboring state, Congress-ruled, unemployment is very high. There is no politics in this, at least insofar as the data put out by CMI is concerned. We are ambivalent. We don't even care about which party is ruling which state. What's happening is there are structural issues over here, and we need to take that into cognizance, take this data as facts given, and then work around it to find solutions to it. There's no point in polarizing this and turning this into a political battle. It goes nowhere.
Having said that, let me come to the core issue. Do we have an unemployment problem that policymakers have to address very seriously? At the end of the day, that's what matters, isn't it?
Oh, yes, of course. I don't think the policymakers are not giving this any attention. It's obviously there right in front of them that we do have an unemployment problem. A 7 to 8% unemployment rate is not what the economy calls for. And a combination of high inflation, high unemployment is particularly bad. And I think it does require attention. But I'm not a policy maker. I'm not even a policy prescription maker. I just produce data and I analyze the data.
All right. Thank you so much, Mahesh. Pleasure as always to speak with you.
Thank you.